So good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the September 24th meeting of the Knoxville Regional Transportation Planning Organization Executive Board. The first order of business is the termination of a quorum. So could we please call roll? We still have a couple people coming in.
Okay, I'll call the elected or appointed official's name, and if you're serving as a proxy, if you'll please answer with your name. Mayor Tanya Martin. Mayor Tony Akins.
Yes, Amber Scott Kelso for Mayor Tony Akins.
Mayor Roland Bradshaw.
Billy Pickle, Loudoun County Road Superintendent for Mayor Bradshaw.
Mayor Scott Burton.
Larry Gann for Scott Burton.
Mr. Troy Everett.
He's on his way. Stuck.
Okay. Mayor Terry Frank. Mayor Warren Gooch. Mayor Jeff Harris. Mayor Glenn Jacobs.
Here.
Mayor India Kincannon.
Tom Claybo for Mayor Kincannon.
Vice Mayor Tommy Smith.
Andrew Roberto for Vice Mayor Smith.
Mayor Ed Mitchell.
Don Walker for Mayor Ed Mitchell.
Commissioner Gina Oster. Here. Commissioner Harold Pittner. Trustee Justin Biggs. Mr. Isaac Thorne.
Here.
Mayor Larry Waters.
James Temple for Mayor Waters.
Mayor Andy White.
Brian Boone for Mayor Andy White.
Mayor Ron Williams.
Mayor Williams here.
Dallas, did you get me for Mayor Martin? Sorry.
I will,
Thanks.
yes. That's 14 present, sir.
And I think that covers all the participants, correct? As far as introduction participants. Okay, so is there anyone on Zoom that we need to recognize? Okay.
Yes, actually, Mary Connolly from the consultant for TDOT is present on Zoom.
Okay, great, thank you. Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move forward. So you all should have seen the minutes for the July 23rd, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion about that? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Doug, I'm going to turn it over to you for the Federal Transit Administration FY25 Program of Projects.
All right. This is, can you hear me? This is the annual funding that we get to the urban area from the Federal Transit Administration. Next slide, please. You have in your packet a breakdown of how the funding will be used. You will notice on the agenda, we call this a public hearing. The Federal Transit Administration requires us to have a public hearing on this particular item, and their main goal there is to have the public understand how we're going to use this funding. So there's a little bit more detail here than what we normally do, but that's because it's a requirement. The 5307 money, it comes here based on an urban area allocation. This year, we got 8.9 million. Now, this is for federal fiscal year 25, so this technically started October 1 of 24. As most of you keep up in the press, Congress is notoriously late in getting all of the funding approved. So this is kind of a payback. This is money that the three transit agencies are already spending, but we still have to go through this process to have it designated appropriately. So we got around 8.9 million. It was actually an increase of about 174,000 over last year. It can be used for transit capital or operating. The city of Knoxville is the technical designated recipient of this, but they can go through the NPO process as far as the public hearing and involvement is concerned. And also CAC and ETHRA share in this, and they became recipients in 2012. Next slide. So we have agreed upon, the agencies all agreed upon how this funding would be distributed. It's based on percentages. So CAT gets 79.8%, so that works out to around 7.1 million. CAC gets 14.9%, so that's about 1.3 million, and then ETHRA gets 472,000, and that's how you work up to the 8.9. Next slide. Like I said, in the information in your packet, it designates how this money will be spent. These categories are provided by FTA. They have to make the funding kind of fit the categories. But for the public, like I said, CAT will be spending this on maintenance, ADA paratransit service, to renovate their maintenance and transit facility, computer, software, hardware upgrades, and safety and security. CAC Transit will be using this for operating. Job access operating, which is a program that's more tailored to getting people to jobs, maintenance, safety, and security. And ETHRA used the same categories: operating, job access operating, maintenance, safety, and security. Next slide. Okay, there's a second pot of money that comes to our area. It's called 5339 Bus and Bus Facilities Funding. The annual allocation was $756,000. It was an increase of about $25,000 from last year. And this can be used for capital, mainly capital. The City of Knoxville is the technical designated recipient, and this must be used for fixed route service. So since CAT is the only fixed route service right now, all of the funding goes to the City of Knoxville and CAT. Next slide. What they will be using it for is to buy a replacement service van, purchase bus stop shelter and signage, acquire shop equipment, miscellaneous support equipment, and mobile fare collection, and purchase support vehicles. The third category of funding that comes to our area is called Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities. Can be capital and operating to help transport seniors and people who are disabled. We get around $837,000. We actually had a little decrease in this of about $6,000. And we go through a separate process for people apply. This is where we give funding often to like nonprofits for vans, or we fund some of the volunteer programs. The next item, Jonah will be going through the specifics of this. So the last slide here, like I mentioned, there is a requirement by the FTA that we have a public hearing, and they say the executive board can count as that public hearing. We did advertise the meeting and let people know that all of this information was online, and people could submit comments in advance. We did not get any. But before we vote, we do need to be sure that there's no one here from the public to speak on this item. And looking, I think I recognize everybody. I don't see anybody, but I just wanted to officially put it in the records that we did allow an opportunity for public comment. That's all I have. I'll take any questions. Otherwise, we do need a motion to accept this funding.
Motion to accept.
Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to the section 5310, program projects. This is going to be presented by Jonah.
Yep, morning. So as Doug said, I'll be going over the 5310 program of projects. This is FTA funding for enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities. So as an example, CAC has something called the VAT, or Volunteer Assisted Transportation Program. Volunteers essentially drive, members of the public, seniors and disabled folks to wherever they need to go, whether that's the grocery store, medical appointments and things like that. So that's just an example of a 5310 program. So in the past, the TPOe has been the designated recipient for this funding. For this round and moving forward, CAC is going to be the recipient, and TPOe will be assisting with the call for projects and project selection. We held a call for projects this June, which we posted online. We advertised it in regional newspapers and mentioned it at some other meetings. And we also maintain a database of interested agencies that tend to apply each round. It is a requirement that the TPOe Executive Board approves the projects as they must be put into the TIP. So operating funds from Section 5310, the way this breaks down is it's 50% FTA funds and then a 25% match each from TDOT and the local agency or the jurisdiction. And there's a quirk here with the TDOT match, which we'll get into a little bit later. But here you can see we had 3 agencies applying for operating funds. That was CAC, ETHRA, and the Blount County CAA Smiles program. Each of them are looking for 2 years of service funding, and that comes out to $584,000 in FTA funds. For the capital funding, this breaks down to 80% FTA funds and then 10% each from TDOT and local. We had several agencies applying, each totaling $918,000. Each of these are looking for 2 to 3 accessible vans, And then Knox CAC is also looking for funding for their mobility management program, and that's 2 years of service there. So again, that's $918,000 total in FTA funds. So in total, we're looking at just over 1.6 million in federal funding, and that'll come out to just under 2.5 million when it's matched. Part of this is 166,000 in administration, which would be 2 months or 2 years of administration going to CAC. So that worked with the TDOT match. Like I said, TDOT typically provides half of the local match, but they don't actually commit to that until FDA has approved the grant. So technically, the applicants are committed to providing the full match until TDOT can step in and provide half of that local match. So if there are any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer those.
I did have one comment I wanted to bring to your attention. We did have last time we funded a program called Sevier County Live It. They're a volunteer assisted transportation program. And if you remember, our urban area shrunk in the Sevier County area. It pulled back to the Knox County line. So they're technically now out of our urban area. So I tried to go through FTA and TDOT to see if there was any way we could get around that, but they're now in the rural area, and TDOT gets the 5310 funding for the rural area. So they have a similar program. They'll just have to apply through the TDOT program. But I did want to make you aware that we usually can fund everybody that applies to us, but that was one time we had to tell them we couldn't fund them, and that was just by definition of the urban area boundary by the census.
Is there any more questions for Jonah? So we need a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to the Pellissippi Parkway Extension Statewide Partnership Program. This will be presented by Craig.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a presentation again on a project that has been regionally prominent for some time. Obviously, a project that has history going back. I don't need to give a lot of preface on what the nature of the project is. Extending that, this is a project that was in the TDOT 10-year plan, but was further out. A local priority was advancing the right-of-way schedule on a quicker timeline than what the TDOT 10-year plan had accommodated. That interest and desire led to an application for TDOT statewide partnership program, and that funding package involved $10 million of TPO-derived LSTBG revenue dedicated towards right-of-way so that right-of-way process can begin to be advanced here in fiscal 2026. That's right around the corner here next month. Essentially, this is where functionally it is the funding process, or the TIP action qualifies as a modification, but for transparency purposes, we wanted to kind of present this as functionally as a cost overrun that's technically done by TPO technical committee. They did recommend approval of this funding package involving the $10 million of STBG, but again, for kind of greater transparency for the regional prominence and this allocation of funds, we wanted to also present this to the executive board. And again, that project is to essentially match the federal share component of the statewide partnership program application that was developed by the folks down, with Alcoa being the lead, but agreement and prioritization between Maryville, Alcoa, and Blount County. The change to the project is essentially going to be increasing the right-of-way phase from roughly $30 million to a bit over $40 million and advancing it to fiscal 2026, whereas it previously would have been out multiple years into the future. Real quickly, while there are $10 million of STBG funds being committed to this project, as part of that regional cooperative effort, two of the partners down in Blount County did recently remove some projects that are going to substantially offset and actually essentially double the offset of that project cost, removing the Morganton Road project, which reduced a bit over $9 million of LSTBG program, and then that Sevierville Road project that was a hybrid project between TDOT and Maryville, again, about $10 million coming off, so in excess of $19 million coming from that LSTBG budget. If we look at this kind of again, while it's not technically a cost overrun, it's essentially kind of a revision of funding there. The cost overrun program in pretty good shape, again, largely due to that removal of those two prior program projects. We still have a LSTBG reserve balance after this approval of about $12 million. And of course, we're wrapping up the current TIP as we speak, and we'll be transitioning to the new one, which is the next presentation. And we're in a pretty good financial position for those dollars. There's just another way of looking at that. Again, this is a $10 million request. It's about 45% of that current projected reserve balance. But again, we really are in kind of the 11.9th hour of this existing TIP, and we'll be transitioning to the next one very shortly. I will pause if there are any questions or specifics about that. And Bruce Applegate from Alcoa here is also available to speak to any questions and maybe present some of the perspective from the regional priorities down in Blount County as well.
Well, I'll be happy to keep it short and sweet, but very much appreciate the opportunity to speak before the executive group today. Again, my name is Bruce Applegate. I serve as the city manager for the city of Alcoa and as a representative of the three governments who are working on this project. I think most of the individuals in this room are experiencing, in some way, shape, or form, the growth across our metropolitan area that is impacting roadway needs throughout our commuting traffic public. Focus for us is just trying to capture some of this land in advance to try to make sure that we're not in a situation where those dollars that'll be programmed out in year 8 or 9, when we were originally on that plan, would surely not cover the cost, because we've already got some groups that are buying in along that corridor at this point in time, making it possible that in the future that this might not even be a project that would be plausible. So again, we're very, very thankful for the TPOe staff in terms of them working with us. The willingness from our partners, again, we've got a representative from the city of Maryville with us today also. Just the willingness to try to reprioritize to make sure that we can get this roadway acquisition, specifically the right-of-way acquisition, moved ahead to try to ensure that in the long run we don't end up in a situation similar to some of the things we've seen play out across the counties, where we're just a little too late and then it becomes impossible to have some of those projects done at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Mayor, I can give you a real brief update on this project from our standpoint for TDOT. We're already working on it. We have gone through and surveyed 110 tracks that we will be affecting one way or the other, whether it's entire or partial. Our geotech division is already going out and working on some of the major slopes and seeing if we need to lay them back or if we're going to end up having to do retaining walls, trying to get that all taken care of. So we are heavily getting involved with that. Right now, we're expecting roughly about 3 years worth of purchasing on this for the right of way. And construction is, we're looking at the final phase of this going, what is it, 32 or 35 right now in the 10-year plan? 36, okay. So we're getting ahead of ourselves, which we have time. Federal code gives us time to buy the right of way, and I think we have 20 or 25 years before we actually start beginning. That's not the goal, but we want to get in there. Through these actions, we'll be able to protect this right of way and keep it at 40 million according to this right now versus the who knows what it would be by the time we finally get to it for buying property. So
Yeah, I'd throw a comment in there as well, just for some context. Even though this was being led by the city of Alcoa on behalf of Blount County and the city of Maryville, you can throw Knox County in there as well. Our interest is we own a quarter of the business park, which is at the termination point of Pellissippi Parkway. And that, as we envision it, will be an economic development anchor, kind of the that end down by the airport for everything happening in Oak Ridge. And yes, our concern is that the right-of-way, obviously a growing area, the right-of-way is all the land is going to be acquired, and all of a sudden we have this business park that all of us put a lot of money into that has just tremendous potential, and we're just never going to be able to utilize it. So Knox County strongly backs this as well.
Really,
Yep.
if there are no further questions, the technical committee did recommend approval of that funding allocation. Process-wise, this would be a modification to the current TIP that doesn't require further action. We can process that administratively at the staff level, and this funding is comprised in this fashion in the draft TIP that's being presented as well. So,
Any further questions or comments, or Craig? Okay, we need a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you. And Craig, I believe you're still up
I am.
for the 2026-29 Transportation Improvement Plan.
Yep. Real quickly, this has been a process ongoing. Whoops, we do not want to restart. I only get a delay 5 minutes, so we'll do this again.
5 minutes, we'll do it again.
We'll do this again in 5 minutes. All right. So draft TIP, this is a process that's been ongoing since essentially the beginning of the year. It takes quite a bit of back and forth going through project applications with our local sponsors, working with TDOT on their list of projects, trying to fit the available projects in from appropriate timing and scheduling, as well as then constraining projects to available revenue to meet fiscal constraint for the document. The draft TIP is essentially complete now. TDOT has completed their review and has now been on to Federal Highway for their review and comment. The document is available on the TPOe website as well. I believe a link was included in your packet as well. Just want to give you a real quick snapshot of where we are with these investments. We actually are in excess of $1 billion programmed in this project for projects in fiscal 26 to 29. A total of projects, it doesn't look like a lot of projects, but there are a lot of projects carried within grouping. So individually listed projects, 32, 27 local projects, 5 TDOT projects. You see the breakdown kind of by the type of project there on the left side for those individually. Roadway projects, 24, 3 transit projects, bike and pedestrian, they're all in the groupings over on the right, as well as ITS and those signal projects also are in the grouping projects. Groupings are kind of holding structures for a group of similar projects that are not individually listed with the pages, and we do have a significant number of projects within those. There are 4 local project groupings and 3 TDOT groupings. The bike and pedestrian grouping, as you see there, has 18 individual, primarily greenway projects that you see in there. Travel and congestion and clean air has 10 projects. A lot of times those are the ITS or signal improvement projects, things of that nature. Planning studies, a couple of small items there, and then preservation, operations, and safety grouping. That is a placeholder for local projects, none specifically listed in there at this point. Another way to look at that overview, while TDOT had 5 projects, I think, the overall, the nature of their projects being much larger in scale tends to put them on the heavy end of the lever as far as the dollar aspects. 69% of the program is in the TDOT projects, local agency projects, about 26%, and then public transportation down at about 5.3%. Another way to look at it as far as by project type, and these are kind of there's some fuzzy lines between these, particularly when you look at bike and pedestrian. While it might say 8.7% of the program, a lot of those projects that are in fact road widening projects are also going to have bike and pedestrian components within them as well. But road widening looks at about 50% of the program, new road projects 19%, and as we go on down to bike and pedestrian, road operations and maintenance, public transportation, progressively fewer as we go down the list of project types. Again, speaking to fiscal constraint and hearkening back to that project that we just had, we're in, I think, a very conservative position as far as the amount of kind of reserve balances that we have that I think really may put us in a place to have a project call partway through this to kind of bring in new phases or potentially new projects, or alternatively, if we continue to be in an inflationary environment, I think it puts us in a very good position to continue to be able to accommodate cost overruns on projects if we are so unfortunate that that continues to happen. I think Mike has the next slide speaking to conformity, which is an important part of that process.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real briefly. As with any new plan update that we do, we have to demonstrate air quality conformity for that, since the area is still subject to air quality standards. For those counties shown on the right side of this slide here, we have the daily PM 2.5 standard. That's Anderson, Knox, Blount, Loudon, and a small part of Roane where the Kingston TVA plan is. And then for the 2008 ozone areas, the blue counties on the bottom map, Knox, Blount, and a small part of Anderson where the Bull Run plan is. And then there's its old 97 ozone standard that still comes into play a little bit. It's the larger area of green counties extending on beyond with Sevier and Jefferson counties as well. So this is included in the TIP as an appendix, and we were able to do this in what's called a short conformity format. This is because we're coming on the heels so soon after the Mobility Plan 2050 that you all adopted back in April. So at that time, we were already lining the projects up, knowing that this TIP update was coming down the line. So all the projects in the TIP are consistent in the right timeframes and descriptions as they were in the mobility plan. So with that, we were able to say what's called relying on the previous regional emissions analysis. The detailed analysis we did with the mobility plan still holds true for these TIP projects. For that 97 8-hour ozone standard, it's a little bit different. It's an older standard that came back into play, and it's a more brief process, really. We just have to demonstrate a couple of things that we're going through our interagency consultation and fiscal constraint. This does overlap with the Lakeway area, TPOe, part of Jefferson County, so we'll need to coordinate still with them and have them adopt a resolution at their meeting coming up. But this has been through our federal review process. Like Craig mentioned, it's now out currently for public comment. I think Craig has one last slide to talk about the schedule, but we're in public comment until around October 14th, and so you'll be hearing from us again next month when we do the final adoption of these plans. I'll turn it back to Craig.
Thank you, Mike. And as Mike said, one last slide, just kind of looking at where we are on the schedule. Again, the federal highway review began on September 25th. We're reviewing the draft tip as it is right now. That 30-day public comment period for both the public and the air quality conformity report is underway, and we'll wrap up there on the before the 14th. Where we will be back for recommendation and approval next month at the meetings next week. So let's make sure we have a quorum for our meetings next month. Based on that application, then there's some kind of post-approval, the final approvals for that happen with the federal review or federal just acknowledgement of the document. So we anticipate that. I'm targeting Q1. I normally say January, and I'm saying Q1. So we'll hopefully then be able to obligate funds out of that new tip, and the current one will no longer be the operating document sometime after the first of the year. That is all I have. If there are questions or comments at this point, again, this is just no particular action required this month for your information and review in advance of approval and adoption at our October meetings.
Thank you, Craig. The next item on the agenda is the TDOT Long Range Transportation Plan presentation.
I'll kick it off. I know we have Mary on online to lead the presentation, but I mentioned this in previous meetings that we are now embarking on our long overdue transportation plan. This is something that hasn't been done since 2016. And we are federally required to make sure that our horizon years are no less than 20 years out. We did a small update back in 2020 to get us a couple more years. So by the end of this year, we will, if nothing happens, we will be less than 20 years. So Mary is here to talk about our steps. We're looking at and she'll talk about this in more detail, but we're looking at a smaller update that will be adopted at the end of this year, and then set us up for a much more robust, engaged plan that will really overhaul what we've been doing as far as policy and our incorporating everything that we've been doing in the last few years. So, Mary, can you hear me?
Absolutely, Matt. Can y'all hear me?
Very well.
Awesome. All righty. Well, thanks everybody for the opportunity to present to this body this morning. As Matt mentioned, my name's Mary Conley, project manager on the consultant side for Mobility in Motion. And as Matt mentioned, this is TDOT's in the state's long-range transportation plan. We'll walk you through a little bit, and you can go to the next slide. In greater detail about, hey, why are we updating the plan this year? What are the specific elements that we're going to include? Essentially, what's going to be carried over from that 2016 plan with that 2020 update, and then what the outlook looks like in terms of upcoming activities and next steps. Next slide. So TDOT and, all states and state DOTs are responsible for developing and updating a long-range statewide transportation plan. The requirements of that are quite different than you all are familiar with at the TPO level. But if you go to TDOT's website today, you go to the Planning Division's website, you'll see that the current 2016 plan is essentially comprised of a series of 8 policy papers and a handful of process documents that outline what that planning process looked like back in 2016, better understanding growth and development trends and things like that. And really, that policy paper or that policy plan back in 2016 was guided by a series of emphasis and focus areas, as well as guiding principles that the department and the state can use in the long term to better invest in transportation needs and infrastructure investments. Next slide. So first things first, right? We're taking a kind of multi-phase approach to the update of this plan. This year, we're focusing on a policy level update that carries over a lot of the vision and guiding principles of 2016, while updating a lot of the planning assumptions using recent data, incorporating some of the pretty transformational changes that have happened at the DOT. So the guiding principles that you'll see in the current plan and that will be carried over, I'll breeze through these real quick, right? So there's 7 in total. The first one is preserve and manage the existing system, right? So this is really emphasizing a focus on fixing your existing assets first, resurfacing, paving, maintenance, and state of good repair, and then better understanding how kind of operational and low cost improvements can really optimize capacity of existing transportation infrastructure. Secondly, support the state's economy, right? Make transportation investments that align with identified economic growth and development goals, boosting economic competitiveness and tourism opportunities across the state. And then better understanding, right, what are those more localized decisions being made related to employment and activity centers, land use and development, and really building partnerships with local and regional entities to kind of support in a cohesive way economic growth across the region and the state. Maximizing safety and security, this is really chief of a lot of what we do at the state level, regional level, and local level with regard to transportation. So what sorts of policies and programs can be understood to reduce injuries and fatalities across all modes, vehicular, freight, bicycle, and pedestrian. Fourth, provide for the efficient movement of people and freight. This is another kind of bread and butter guiding principle that's a top priority for a lot of what we do. How do we optimize not only the movement of personal vehicles and automobiles, but also freight and goods movement, as it's kind of critical to not only regional and state economies, but as well as the national economy. Next slide. Fifth, right, building partnerships for sustainable and livable communities. This is really all about providing opportunity to get down to the kind of ground level, provide opportunities for broad public input on plans and programs coming out of the department, and then really working closely with not only local representatives, but also, TPOs, MPOs, and RPOs across the state to kind of align planning efforts and land use and transportation decisions. Sixth, protect natural, cultural, and environmental resources, right? As the state continues to focus on growth and improving safety on our infrastructure and our roadways, how can we maintain the integrity and the existing characteristics of local communities and kind of minimizing impacts to recreational assets, natural resources, and things of that nature. And then last but not least, emphasize financial responsibility. How do we optimize the share of federal dollars, right, that are coming to the state, while also thinking creatively about funding limitations in terms of alternative funding strategies, public-private partnerships, and things of that nature. Next slide. All right, so walked through a little bit of what the guiding principles are going to be for Mobility in Motion policy plan, and talked a little bit about updating the planning assumptions and providing current data and trends analysis. So why else update the plan, right? Well, a lot has changed over the past 10 or so years. At the federal level, the bipartisan infrastructure law brought a lot of capital investment and planning opportunities to the state and local communities. And, we would like to kind of weave that in and the understandings that were gleaned from that into the policy plan. And then more locally or at the state level, a lot has changed. The Transportation Modernization Act passed in 2023 with the 10-year project plan really being the guiding force moving forward in terms of state level investments. And then kind of internal to the department, there's been project delivery and organizational changes that are really kind of innovating and optimizing the way that TDOT does business, right? So with the integrated program delivery and project delivery network, creates much more kind of collaboration, not only within the department, but locally in delivering projects. And then EPIC organizational changes internally have really allowed for TDOT to cross-collaborate across different disciplines to make sure that projects are delivered on schedule. So we really want to make sure that we're reflecting all of those sound changes. Next slide. Other key considerations, right? Already hit on that first bullet, but anybody that's kind of involved in transportation planning and planning more broadly really treats it as a process and not kind of the development of a product, right? So by virtue of being with this body today, it's providing an opportunity for you to hear from us, but us to hear from you about the kind of localized or regional needs in your community. Also, there's an opportunity to do best practices research and better understand some best practices related to project prioritization across other state DOTs that we can kind of bring to the table and discuss with TDOT. Next slide. So we'll be real quick here, but just wanted to kind of cherry pick some interesting data findings to support the cause. So what you see right here is largely projections from the UTK Boyd Center with projections in Region 4, West Tennessee from the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. And really what you see here is a lot of growth, right, happening across the state. So how are we going to accommodate that growth and make sure that people have the accessibility and mobility services and needs that they require to have a sound quality of life? Out in East Tennessee, where y'all are at, and in Region 1, we really see a mix of concentrated growth in urban areas with some potential population declines in more rural areas and more kind of Appalachian counties. So how do we make sure that we're meeting the needs of those people who are potentially aging in place and may not have access to transportation and balance that with the needs of the more urban counties? Next slide. Also, it's always really good to kind of evaluate the safety and security concerns and trends that are happening across the state to better identify countermeasures and align with other efforts. So identifying opportunities to better understand where crash hotspots are across the state, and sound countermeasures to accommodate those. What you really see here is that there's a disproportionately large amount of crashes, right, in your more urban areas. But really, when you flip that to look at severity of crashes, you really see a different dynamic, and seeing more severe crashes in your more rural areas. So how do we better understand what's happening in maybe those low volume roadways versus those high traffic congested corridors? Next slide. Obviously, top of mind for the Knoxville region and the TPO is traffic, right? And how to accommodate traffic. You have the I-40, I-75 interchange that you can see pop up there, as well as when you head east, starting to see some significant congestion out in the Tri-Cities area. Next slide. And beyond just regular traffic and how we accommodate solutions at the operational level and the capital level to accommodate that, we really, ought to be playing nice with freight, right? Not only do we drive our personal automobiles and get inconvenienced by congestion, but we also have an expectation that our deliveries arrive in time and that our retail stores have our stocks or our shelves stocked. So what you see here, obviously, Tennessee is an epicenter of freight and industry. You see a lot of commodity flow out in West Tennessee, as well as at that I-40, I-75 interchange. Next slide. But what you can also see, and this is data from a US DOT freight analysis framework, it's publicly available, and they provide projections on what commodity flows look like into the future through 2050. We really see a pretty significant growth in commodity flows out in East Tennessee, heading east of Knoxville towards that Tri-Cities up I-81. So how are we going to accommodate and provide solutions for trucks and freight vehicles so that they can provide reliable service to communities and residents across the state? Next slide real quick.
Mary, we apologize. Our laptop has decided it is only restarting one more time, so.
Oh, no. That
It's-
must have been what Craig was saying.
Yep.
I think you were on the last slide.
I believe you were on the last slide, but we're seeing what we can do here. Dallas to the
Awesome.
rescue, perhaps?
Or just go on.
I'm happy to go on, Mike,
Yeah.
if that's the, yeah,
I
okay.
think proceed, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, there was only one more slide, and it was to talk about what we have going on in terms of immediate next steps and upcoming activities. So we're currently in the process of engaging all of the state's MPOs, development districts, and RPOs to better understand what's top of mind for them in their regions, both from a transportation perspective and a land use perspective. We met with TPO staff earlier this week, and that should be kind of ticked off the box before the end of the month. We will have engaged all of the MPOs. As Matt mentioned, the policy plan portion of this document is expected to be completed by the end of the year with public comment in the November-ish timeframe. With a larger update planned for calendar year 2026. And there's kind of two things to know about what that larger update looks like. One, it has an opportunity to incorporate more technical analyses, kind of more robust data analysis and geospatial understanding of needs. And then really we're going to be coming out to the communities in a much more robust fashion, better understanding from the ground level what their challenges are. So we anticipate coordinating with development district and MPO and TPO staff to make sure that we're tackling both of those tasks in a way that complements what you guys got going on at the regional level. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mary? Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
I
it's okay,
just
man.
wanted
Go
to
ahead. I'm
add
sorry.
I wanted to add to a little bit to what Mary was saying about what we're doing for the larger update was breaking the state into the regions and looking at the the needs of the regions a little more closely than we have from the statewide level. You know, for example, Region 1 has a lot of fog issues where, you know, Memphis and Region 4 do not. So we do not want to try to incorporate something like that on a statewide level. Memphis has a lot of pavement issues, pavement materials issues. We don't have that in Region 1. So hopefully that will give us a much more focused way of producing these plans and recommendations that come out of that. So I just wanted to add to that.
Dallas has indeed come to the rescue. Thank you. So, okay, thank you, Mary. Matt or Troy, are there any other TDOT and Federal High Administration updates?
I think we haven't talked about our coordination, but I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk about SPP. Did you want to add anything before that? Go ahead. Okay, so as you know, SPP can be successful. You saw from the Pellissippi Parkway presentation that is something that was able to advance a project a little bit quicker than we had anticipated. So this last round of SPP applications is complete. The cycle or the applications have been received. I was going to provide you with some statistics that Preston provided regarding the breakdown of the applications. So we had a total of 61 applications. Region 1, out of the 61, there were 13 that were from Region 1. Knoxville TPO had 7 of those. I hope that each of those 7 were coordinated with the MPO. I don't have that breakdown of what the projects were, but I'm hopeful that we have been trying to stress that the TPO needs to be involved in that type of coordination, because if there is a commitment of local dollars or local federal dollars, that they are aware of that. So that is, I guess, all I really had. We have the transportation planning grant cycle is open. That is through October 31st. And I'm hopeful, I don't know if I think we've received 8 at this point. I don't know exactly where those have come from, but.
We do have 8. We don't have any within Knoxville yet.
Okay.
We got a month.
So again, just to remind you what the planning grants are, they are a smaller, just I guess you could call it a discretionary grant, where it would utilize some of our state planning and research dollars to help produce plans, somewhat in a multimodal nature, but there have been projects like sign inventory, pavement resurfacing plans. We've also had some corridor studies, multimodal studies. So it's really it's open to a lot of things. But if you are interested in that, again, the application, we can get you the link on the website to where those applications are. And again, it is open until Halloween. That is it for me.
I wanted to add one more teaser for next October, for the meeting here next month. Dexter has promised multiple times that he will be here to present on the Pell and the 75-40 joint study that we have going on. I believe there will be another meeting as well for elected officials coming up at the region. But just so everyone's here, don't miss it, because you want to get all the updates on what's going on, because I know that's a big one. And we need to, adopt a couple things. But Dexter has promised me multiple times he'll be around. So.
Is that all? Okay, thank you all so very much. Doug, is there any other business?
Just a few things. Though she arrived just a minute too late for her agenda item, I did want to recognize Donna Saunders came in from Sunshine Services. I think they have a few people there. We did approve your request for 2 vans, and then I didn't do it at the time, but Nancy Welch is the director of the CAC Volunteer Assisted Program. I wanted to let you know they appreciate the funding that comes through here, and they were in attendance to support that. So. The other thing, I'll have Craig talk about this a little bit. There's a regional pavement preservation workshop coming up on October 21st. Craig, I don't know if you want to.
Turn on your mic. Got problems with things not being on today. The payment management workshop, this is something the Payment data collection has been a regional project. This is the second iteration of that project. Just a real quick overview, about $1.6 million that's being advanced in the region to collect pavement data for our partner agencies. You see those there. We have 8 participating agencies regionally: Knoxville, Oak Ridge, Clinton, Maryville, City of Loudoun, Blount County, Knox County, and the town of Louisville had joined in this time as well. We have been collecting data in 2024, 2025. We're about halfway through all of the data collection in the project. There will be some subsequent data collection taking place next summer, and updating all of that information so that, again, these agencies can make informed decisions about how to more effectively preserve and manage their pavement preservation budgets. We do have a networking workshop that is coming up, and if you want to go forward one more slide, that's just another way kind of looking at the schedule that we're going on. So really kind of advance from that one, and this is the next slide, please, Dallas. That regional workshop, October 21st. The city of Knoxville is hosting that at their service center out on Morris Avenue. This is a full-day workshop looking at maintenance and preservation activities and just kind of allowing that forum and workshop idea for exchange of what has been working regionally, what have been the challenges to implementing preservation techniques, and trying to just expand that state of practice here in the region. We do anticipate that that will largely be our public works professionals that are working on that, and that workshop is facilitated by our project consultants, Greg Duncan and Mark Gardner, who are, again, senior engineers with Applied Pavement Technologies, who is our partner on the project. So just wanted to kind of plug that one more time, and I suspect that folks from each of your agencies, or many of the agencies here, will be attending that workshop.
All right, thank you, Craig. Then I want to point out the next technical committee meeting is on October 14th, and this is one of these weird months. I know some of you attend both technical committee and executive board. The executive board is October 22nd, so it's really just a week apart. Usually we have a couple weeks in between, but it's kind of the way it falls out this time. The technical committee will be over in the main assembly room. There's something already going on in here. I don't know if it's voting or whatever it is, and then just to remind you that the October meetings are really important because we're going to adopt the TIP. As Craig mentioned, we really need to have a quorum. And then as Troy pointed out, we're really excited about having the I-4075 corridor presentation. And then the last thing is, if you're really into all things transit, CAT and the city of Knoxville are hosting the Tennessee Public Transit Association annual conference here in town. It's October 21 to 23rd, and I believe you can still go ahead and get make reservations for that or do that if you're interested. I'm going to go, but if you're into transit, it's a really good conference. That's all I have.
Thank you. At this point, members of the public may address the executive board with a 5-minute time limit for each person. Is there anyone that would like to take advantage of that? Seeing none, unless there's an objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Doug?